Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to this week's episode of Not D&D, brought to you by EN World. This week we are carrying on with our adventure through culinary TTRPGs, and we have Dan the Baker here to tell us more about Storybake. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about my literal child, Storybake.
Excellent. I'm excited to have you on. This month we're all talking about games that have like culinary or edible themes to them, and Storybake was the perfect joining of those two passions. So we'll be talking about baking and gaming this evening. If you're watching live, hello, welcome, and ask us any questions in the chat. And we are recording live, so we will answer them live. And if you're listening to the podcast, also welcome. Anything we're talking about, we'll have links to in the show notes, so you can click through and have a look there. But Dan, before we start talking about the game, I'd love to hear about you and your background as a gamer a little bit more. So do you remember your first tabletop experience, what you first played?
Yeah, my first tabletop experience for like tabletop RPGs was D&D. I started in 2020 during lockdown.
Sure.
That was when I'd been interested in it. I'd like listen to the podcast. I'd watch like Dimension 20 and like the Critical Roles and stuff like that. But it was when lockdown hit. That was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and try and like play this game. I remember I went on Reddit because there's like a looking for games subreddit essentially, and I found one in there that was like beginner friendly. And I think that was like, it was like Lost Minds, what like they ran like that, the OG D&D 5e one. I like ran through that, and then basically quickly after that I started my own campaigns. I have one that's still going. That was my first ever campaign, is like still going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I quickly then also spread to other TTRPGs, like honestly still within quarantine I was playing. I think the first other TTRPG I played was Monster of the Week.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. What made you want to branch out and try other games? Because a lot of people like start playing D&D and they kind of stay there. But what was it that made you want to go and find and explore other things?
Honestly, it was specifically Monster of the Week was because of the Adventure Zone. For Adventure Zone Amnesty, they played Monster of the Week, and I've always loved like Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my favorite piece of media to ever exist. So I was like, oh, I would love to have that vibe, in a game. It's not something you can do with D&D that good. So I was like, I'll try this other game and see if I like it. And then that just, snowballed into
and it really escalated, because that ended up in being Tiny Ghost Chef Games. So what was that step to go to there?
I started by making kind of just like junky little one-page games. Like one of the first games I ever made was about surviving a zombie apocalypse in a Waffle House.
We should have talked about that this week, because in a Waffle House is perfect for the theme.
Which I wrote while I had a fever and was like taking cold medicine.
And
it still holds up. So I think that I think I was just like trying to have fun with it, and then 2 years ago was when I was like, okay, I want to sit down and make like a serious game, like an actual like full game. And that became Storybake.
Fantastic. And I know a lot of people that listen to this they run a lot of games, and they're playing around with a lot of ideas. But what advice would you give to them if they're thinking they have an idea they want to get out there? As somebody who's done it, what advice would you give them?
Just for if they want to get out any idea just out in the universe. I mean, like the dumb kind of advice is just you just got to do it. But the real advice is like you just have to not be afraid that it's going to fail. Or if you are afraid of that, do it anyways. Because even if it fails, it exists, and that's like something existing and something being real is like the first step, and then making, as like the saying is like, make it first, then make it good, or something like that. Like as long as it's made, you can then kind of refine it and shape it.
Absolutely. That's fab advice. Well, So your journey has led you to Story Bake. So let's segue into talking about that, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So what is Story Bake?
So Story Bake is a baking adventure TTRPG where you play as a magical baker who travels around the world in their bakery, kind of Baba Yaga style. Like it, just kind of gets up and goes wherever it wants to. Um, I've been saying it's kind of if like the Great British Bake Off was Howl's Moving Castle.
Okay.
Those kind of, combining the fun lightheartedness of, Great British Bake Off with kind of the whimsical magic of Howl's Moving Castle. There are 10 different specialties you can play as that are like different things that you can bake. Like you can be a bread baker, a cake baker, chocolates, like all those different things, and they all give you different abilities that help you explore the world. So with social interactions, combat, even. Yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk. I mean, you mentioned some inspirations for the games there, like Howl's Moving Castle and baking shows. But I have noticed this theme in your games. Like you mentioned the Waffle House. Is there any other reasons why you wanted to combine tabletop RPGs and baking? As a theme?
Yeah. So like by trade am a baker. Like I have a degree in baking. And I've been baking since I was like 5 years old.
Wow.
My grandma taught me how to bake. It started with she made a carrot cake every single year for Thanksgiving, and I would be sitting at like the kitchen table grating carrots by hand because we weren't allowed to use any sort of like pre-grated or pre-shredded carrots. Um, and my parents owned a restaurant, so I've always been working in kitchens.
Oh, wow.
And then I worked in like bakeries, kitchens, pastry shops. For the last few years. And I just to me, just baking is magic already. In real life, so I wanted to kind of convey that in game form.
Beautiful. And I love in the game the adventures have actual recipes in them so people can make them at home.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of those? Because like if I'm not a professional chef like you are, will I be able to make these?
Yeah, totally. My main goal as a baker and as a recipe developer is to make recipes that are accessible. I want, anyone can pick up a bag of flour and make any of my recipes. I put in all the work and all the science to make sure that you guys don't have to do any thinking. You can kind of just read it down and figure it out. But yeah, there's a different varying levels as well. Like there's chocolate chip brownie or chocolate chip cookies and brownies. But there's also like babka, which is like a twisted bread thingy, and like cheesecakes, things that are a bit more complicated. But it's I try my best to make it easily readable and easy to follow.
Perfect. Sounds great. Sounds delicious, I should say, actually. But let's talk about the game a little bit in detail. So the system you've kind of based it around is powered by the apocalypse. What made you choose that as a framework for the game?
I think honestly kind of the same reason, with like the recipes is the accessibility. Because Powered by the Apocalypse is such an easy to learn game, easy to learn system, excuse me. It's simple, it's not as crunchy as like something like D&D or Pathfinder or Daggerheart or
Sure.
anything like that. So I wanted it to be something that could be learned in like kind of one sitting, like you could read through the rules very easily and have a good understanding of what's going on. My touch point was as my boyfriend, who is not a TTRPG person. He likes TTRPG, he likes playing them and like role playing and stuff. He does not like rules. So I was
Sure.
like, hey, can you understand what's going on here? And if he said yes, then I was like, cool, we're good, we can move on.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the character creation and the characters. Who are we going to be in this game? Because one of the big themes in the game was community, which I think, thinking about it, speaks back to how you learned how to bake, because it was very about family and things. So I guess that's where that came from. But character creation, who are we playing, and how do we make our characters?
So you're playing a magical baker who works in the bakery. In the kind of the world building of Story Bake, bakers are known to be not only creators of delicious treats, but also people who help out the community and who contribute to the world around them. The kind of tagline I've been saying also is like you saving the world with the power of butter, sugar, and flour. But yeah, so you in character creation, you choose one of the 10 baker specialties, and each of the specialties have like their own character sheet. If you've ever played Monster of the Week, it's very similar setup where kind of everything you need to know is on the sheet. Has all your abilities, all the skills you need. So you choose whichever one you want to be. There's a series of questions that you're given that you can talk about, like your personality or your backstory of how you learned to bake, why you just sort of decided to join a bakery, and then you from there you kind of apart from the individual, as a group decide, you build your bakery, you decide how long each of you have been working there, how you work, how do your personalities mix or clash. I wanted everything to be like self-contained, which is why I have all the basically all the information for your characters all in like one sheet.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes it pretty easy to run a one shot or something, because you can just bring these sheets, like a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games, I guess. You can just bring a load of sheets and be like, hey, who do you want to play? Here you go. Here's some options. Here's some choices, so we can get going. So what sort of people do we have? I think you mentioned before, are they all different like baking specialties, or do you have some examples of them?
So I guess the 10 baker specialties. I'm just gonna read off the list because I will mess up if I don't.
Sure.
Breads, cakes, custard and mousse, viennoiserie, chocolates, confections, cookies, pies and tarts, patisserie, and frozen. And those are all, I kind of based them off of things that were on like the Great British Bake Off, like their different weeks, as well as the different classes I took in baking school. Like we had a pies and tarts class, we had a frozens class, we had a chocolates class, things like that.
Do you have any particular favorite playbooks from the game?
It's like choosing my favorite child, but
yeah, but everyone has one, so it's
fine. Everyone has one. It's I feel like probably it's the bread baker is my favorite, because that's the first one I like completed and was like, this is a good baker. And they have one of my favorite abilities, where they essentially can make a little dough gremlin that can help them with like tiny tasks, like around the bakery or around the world. It's called Raise the Bread.
That's perfect. I love that. That's very cool. Some of the abilities. Any other little cool abilities you'd like to tease out for some of the characters just while we're here for a shout out?
Yeah, sure. Like the pies and tarts, they have an ability called No Soggy Bottoms.
What does that do?
So it's essentially since you're so meticulous about ensuring that you have a crisp crust, it makes it easier for you to succeed on your like mental checks.
Okay, cool.
Because there's I haven't said that, but there's 4 stats that you either have like a +1 to a 0 or a -1, and they're mental, social, spiritual, or physical. And each baker kind of has 1 or 2 that like is the best for them to have their +2 in, or like kind of that they have their own like loadout, I guess. So like No Soggy Bottoms makes it your mental stat, makes it a lot easier to pass mental stats. There's the confections one has an ability called Candy Crush, where you essentially can like make something brittle, like like cooked sugar, and are able to crush it and destroy it more easily. So you can do that. So like if you want to break a lock, or like any like weaken like the structure of something, anything like that. It's very versatile. I tried to make things that were like pretty versatile in the
Yeah,
world. Yeah.
sounds great. Fab. They sound really fun. So I think flicking through the playbooks would be really fun to see all the different options and the things you can do there. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing in the game. So we have an idea of kind of who we are. We're traveling around in this magical bakery. It's like a magical world. Like in some of the artwork, you've got like little dragons there, and like you say, you can, raise little bread sidekicks for
Yeah.
yourself as well. So what does a session look like? What are we doing in Storybake? What stories are we telling?
Yeah, so there's kind of two phases of play. There is the adventuring out in the world, but there's also working in the bakery.
Okay.
You have like a set of skills that you really just use in the bakery that help you, either like you're doing like your batch baking, making sure everything comes out, cookie cutter perfect, pun intended. Or if you're like out the front of house and like helping out the customer and stuff like that, you have your own set of skills for that. And when you go through that phase, depending on how you roll on those skills, you add or subtract to your ratings. It's kind of like getting your 5-star reviews and things like that. And the more ratings you can get upgrades to your bakery that help you out, on your adventures. Things that can give you like extra health or extra experience points, things like that. And then in the adventure portion of the game, it's really all about kind of exploring the world around you. It's kind of trying to find wonder in things that seem a bit more mundane, as well as helping the community and helping build things together.
Beautiful. So, I mean, are you able to give us, so you have loads of pre-written adventures available in the book, which is great, which is available now, by the way. I should have mentioned it's on DriveThruRPG for the digital version. And I believe you said the physical book version is now out and available as well.
Yeah, as of today, right now it's on +1 EXP. I also technically this past weekend I was selling it with them there's a convention here in New York, but for the general public, it is now available on +1 EXP to have and to hold. But yeah, there are 13 pre-written adventures. I wrote 10 of them, and then I had 3 of my amazing friends write 3 of the other ones, Diana, VJ, and Danny. And all of them kind of surround they surround the recipe that goes with them, because each of the adventures have their own recipe, and they're all inspired by the recipes themselves. Like I just ran one yesterday, one of them at the convention, where a person, their chocolate chip cookie recipe was stolen from them several years ago, and it was used to start like a kind of like a Toll House mega corporation cookie cutter, like kind of taking the soul out of the recipe and like distributing it around the world. And she wants the bakers to go and help steal it back, so it's like a heist into the cookie factory. So that's a fun, like you explore the world of like where the town the cookie factory is in. You get to help out this woman get her recipe back. There's like the conflict of if you run into the head of the cookie factory and things like that. And then there's a bunch of different, I tried to vary them, where some were more like you do have to like get into combat and like you actually are fighting things, and some that are kind of more puzzle based and you're trying to figure things out, and some that are more social based and you're trying to just really get that figured out. But yeah, and I think the main thing I really wanted was like that baking has such heart and soul in it, and it's really trying to maintain that throughout the adventure.
Gorgeous. I love that. So, I mean, obviously, the game feels pretty accessible for players because, like you say, the system, people can sit down and make their character at the table very quickly. I think the theme's quite approachable as well for somebody that's maybe newer to gaming. But how would you say it runs for somebody who's a GM who's running the game? Do you think it would be a good option for somebody that's been a player for a while but not tried running before?
Yeah, I definitely. There's, I have a whole a recipe for the head chef is what the GM is called in the game. I have a whole recipe for them how to run the game, how to set it up, how to direct your bakers. And like it is a bit more like, as a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games are, it's a bit more loosey goosey when it comes to how to interpret things. But I really, in the book, encourage collaboration between the GM and the players. Like, you guys decide between the both of you how things are resolved depending on the dice roll and things like that. Like the GM is the controlling the majority of the story, but the players have their own amount of control that they exert over the narrative.
Perfect. And the game, like we mentioned, is out and available now. So if people are interested, go have a look in the links and read about it, pick up a copy if it's of interest. But you brought the game to life via crowdfunding on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of people have ideas and are interested in coming to crowdfunding as well. As somebody who's successfully crowdfunded games, do you have any like tips or tricks for other people that are maybe looking to do that themselves?
Yeah, I think my biggest tip is don't do what I did, which was announce the Kickstarter was happening and then a month later launch it.
Okay.
If I like, in retrospect, if I had an extra like 3 months to be like, this Kickstarter is happening soon, like this is, like have more time to market it and to kind of scream it from the rooftops, I feel like it would have been more successful early on. It was successful overall, thankfully. But it wasn't fully funded until like the last couple days. So it was a bit of a
Oh
nail.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if my big advice is like, take your time with it. Like there's no rush, you know, like the more time you take and the more care you take to like get the Kickstarter out there and to get that word of mouth going, the more successful you'll be.
Wow, that's some great bit of advice. I love that. Well, as mentioned, the game is out and live now. The links are in the show notes or on the screen. So if this has sounded interesting to you at all as the listener, please go and have a look, because the best way to support indie tabletop creators is to buy their stuff if you can. Dan, thanks so much for coming on and sharing Storybake with us. It's a really delicious sweet treat. So thanks so much for creating it and putting it out there in the world.
Thank you for having me.
Before you go, of course, before you go, I will ask you one other question, which I ask everyone. It's, do you have any other tabletop RPGs you would like to recommend?
Yes. Yeah. You told me this question was coming, and I
did.
I was humming and ahhing about it before this started. And I decided the one I want to tell people about is Perils and Princesses. Mostly because this is one that kind of the vibe helped inspire Storybake a little bit, just because the vibe of Perils and Princesses, which, if you don't know Perils and Princesses, you play as a princess who experiences perils. It's OSR revival, old school revival, but it's Ryan Lynch, who is both the writer and the illustrator, did a very good job capturing that fairy tale-ness, but also kind of the danger and conflict that the princesses will take on. But yeah, the juxtaposition of like fairy tale princesses and perilous dangers kind of was a big inspiration with Storybake. So yeah, I highly recommend Perils and Princesses.
I love that. That's a great recommendation. Thank you. I believe we had Ryan on to talk about Perils and Princesses the year ago or so. So if you're interested, you can go back on Not D&D Archive and listen to that interview. But that is all for this week. Again, Dan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. And thank you to everyone who has watched and listened. We'll be back next week with another culinary tabletop RPG for you. But for now, we'll say thank you very much and goodbye. Bye.
Bye.